that this was taking place, they realized the great peril to the Jewish people, that the wickedness of Canaan is contagious. And so they decided that this has to be stopped immediately, once for all. So what did they came together and they said, we have to study this. What to do? We have to put our heads to this subject. So they got together and took counsel, and they came out with a terrible decision. We have to excise the whole wound from its root and make a radical surgery. We have to destroy the whole town of Giveah's Binyamin. They're all relatives. So therefore, they cannot feel any abhorrence of these youths. You know, a gangster's mother, when she hears that her son murdered somebody, so she said, but he's a nice boy otherwise. He brings me things. It's her son after all. And so, the people in Giveah's Binyamin were blood relatives. Now, the people of Giveah's Binyamin, they would have taken steps, but the steps were not enough, because the Sanhedrin was afraid that if you'll be lenient now, even though you execute the criminals, what's going to happen? It'll crop up everywhere now. And so they said, as a Gemara in Yevomis, Muter laker diodoro menatere bekum asay lemigdar milse. In order to prevent some wickedness from spreading, it's permissible to do something against the Torah. So even though they weren't the criminals, only a handful of wicked youths, it was passed a sentence that the town must be wiped out. Now to us it seems terrible, and that's why we have criminals. But never again did this recur. This is the sole instance, and the Canaanites continued to live there, but never again did the Jews imitate the Canaanites in this, because they took a terrible step. Now when this terrible verdict was passed, the whole tribe of Binyamin said, no, we can't let it go. We can't let it be. You'll destroy a town. There's 700 men of war in Giveah's Binyamin. We won't let it. Only the criminals. But the Sanhedrin shall call Israel said no. Now we have to know that the fact that they saw a bloody section of a body didn't help to calm them at all. Only it stirred up in them more indignation than would usually have been. And immediately 400,000 Jews came together from all quarters. Now Jews are not sitting looking for fights. Every man has a field. He has fields to till. He has cows to milk. He has a lot of work in the farm. A farmer is full of work. Besides, he has children to teach Torah, and he has himself to take care of. They dropped everything. It was unequaled in history. 400 men ran together, and they said, we are going to war in order to make a radical operation. Never again should this be repeated. Now, the Novi, centuries later, he upbraided, he rebuked the people of Israel, and he said as follows. He said, you people, he said, you look at injustice and you're silent. Today we're accustomed to it. In Queens, they murdered a chazan. Chazan, conservative temple. But he was a Shemer Shabbos, they murdered him. In Midtown, they murdered the physician on the sick call. Nothing. It's nothing today. People are accustomed to see wickedness. Nobody reacts. They only write letters to Lindsay. Well, no, the Lindsay is the arch-usher. Lindsay, that's the author of all this wickedness. And other Democratic politicians in other towns that are licking the boots of the black murderers in order to get their votes, and they're keeping quiet. On the contrary, as the more violence they do, the more they flatter them, the more they toady to them, and they yield to their demands. But in the good old days, even Gentiles didn't have that attitude. Gentiles reacted against wickedness with some indignation. But the Am Yisrael, They were the paragon of indignation. And when they saw what had happened, so the Navi said like this. He said, you people, they said, nowadays you have no indignation. It doesn't mean they didn't have. They had plenty, but not enough. You are worse. You're not as good as they were in the days of the Givas Binyamin. Shom Amadu, had you lived then, lo hisigo milchoma al bnei alva. There wouldn't have been a war against wicked men. You would have swallowed it down. So what's the Navi doing? He's commending them. It's one of the noblest episodes in our history. That the entire nation got up, ki ish echad, like one man. In each one's heart, there burned the desire that this should be a holy nation, and we should follow the Torah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and not do what the Gentiles do, and we have to stop it once for all. And they came together for war against Binyamin. And Binyamin said, no, we'll fight to defend, give us Binyamin. The outcome was, from both sides, many fell. 75,000 Jews lost their lives in this. Now, the Gemara says that it's all due to one man, the hot-tempered Levite. First of all, why did he have to get in a fight with his wife in the first place? They could have sat together in peace with his concubine. And then, even if he did get in the fight, why did he push her out? And if he found her dead in the morning, why did he cut her up? It was all actions of a scandal maker. And therefore, he was the match that set fire to the magazine. And he made a great conflagration in the Jewish people. But there's no criticism anywhere. There's no criticism in the words of the Gemara anywhere, of the Chazal, as far as I ever heard, and I heard about this from great men, against this war, because it was a war of righteousness. And it was wiped out once for all, and never again is such an episode mentioned in our history. That's how our forefathers were. They didn't take any nonsense. Now, I could cite to you another example before this, similar to this, where they took action. Most of you people don't know, at the end of Yeshua, it relates when the tribe of Gad and Reuven had kept their promise. For 14 years they had fought with the older people, and now, when they had already settled in the land, they took farewell from Yehoshua. You know, they had promised Moshe Rabbeinu that we'll go as the vanguard in the fight. And so they had kept their promise. For 14 years, finally they're ready to leave. So Yeshua gave them his blessing, and he gave them presents, and they left. So as they went away, they had to pass over the Jordan River. So when they came to the east side, to the west side of the Yarden, before they crossed, they said, let's make a monument. And they built an altar. They built a mizbeach. Now, when the Jewish nation heard that they had built a mizbeach, they said, what's this? We have only one altar. That's in Shiloh. Can't be another one. It's forbidden to have extra altar. So immediately they came together to make war against Gad and Reuben just for this one transgression. They made an altar. But before they made war, they sent Pinchas with a committee to speak to them. When Pinchas came to them, so the sons of Gad and Reuben said, Chas v'shalom. We have no intentions of using this altar for sacrifices. We only erected it as a monument to remind everyone where we come from. Because years later, maybe your children will tell our descendants that you don't belong to the Jewish nation. You live on the other side of the Jordan. You're a separate nation. So this altar is going to be a testimony that we came from the body of the Jewish people, but not for any kind of sacrifice. So Pinchas went back and reported this, and the war was averted. So in those days we see that the Jewish nation didn't take any deviations from the Torah. And that's why they remained what they were. They continued in their noble standards of perfection for hundreds of years. And that's why they didn't need any king. Because they were so great that they were capable of governing themselves without a government. It's unequaled in history. By Yomi Mohaim, Ein Melech Yisrael, there was no king in Yisrael. You know why? Because Ish Kol HaYoshar Beinav Yas, every man tried to do what was right in his eyes. Like it says, V'asisa Yoshar V'atoy Beinei Hashem, you should do what's right in the eyes of Hashem. So every man tried to live up to that. You could depend on the Jewish people. That's why there was no king. They didn't need one. Let's say a kelo. As a kelo, let's say 40 young men, old tzaddikim. Their lives are devoted to Torah. Does anybody take attendance when they come to daven in the morning? In the kelo, nobody takes attendance in the kelo if you come to daven in the morning. Little boys, perhaps, not in the kelo. Because they're all fiery Jews, flaming Jews. So in those days, we didn't need a king. Because the Jewish nation, each Jew felt upon his shoulders, he bore the responsibility for all Jewish people. And when they heard about a nevola, and wickedness was committed, so all 400,000 Jews who could bear arms came together of their own accord, Ki'ish Echad, as if there were only one man. Each one was one man to carry the burden of the whole Jewish people. So such a people didn't need a king. Now, go back to the boys in Binyamin. In Gibeah Binyamin, how did it happen? The answer is environment is a powerful influence. Wickedness is contagious. Even good people, if they live among Rishoyim, after a while adopt their ways. I'll give you an example. Today you wouldn't listen to it. You wouldn't even feel that it's so, because we're so influenced by this bad environment. We'll say a certain synagogue, a young Israel of so-and-so, or a different place, Pearl and Mizrachet, they make a dance. Now a dance, today, people don't understand what's wrong with dancing. You walk in a room, and you see men and women jumping up against each other. If you were deaf, you'd be scandalized. But you hear the music, that's excuse. Music is the excuse for dancing. But dancing to real Jews is one of the worst abominations. It's a filthy corruption of human behavior. The fact that it's done by so many Gentiles has made it kosher. Mixed dancing is one of the very worst things that you can think of. To go to a chasana where there's mixed dancing is much worse than going to a wedding where they're serving pork. Much worse. Pork is only allowed. It's not your hareg v'alayav. You don't have to kill yourself not to eat pork. If you're being forced to eat pork, you have to give your life? No. But suppose somebody says, dance? You have to give your life. You dance with the erevah. Even your own wife sometimes is an erevah. The man that printed the invitation didn't ask your wife for a calendar. It's your holy Yahweh. So what happens? Rabbis, rabbinical crooks of America, corrupt characters, not all of them, few good ones, but some very many corrupt ones. They are proud. And so he says to the